Antonian, founder and managing director of consultancy Aestora. Big shout out to Spacemate, who have been kind enough to let us film in their Putney office once again. Now, over the next decade or two, social media will face its biggest tests yet. The erosion of trust, the rise of AI-generated everything, the collapse of attention spans, the battle for truth, and the growing tension between connection and control. Platforms that once promised freedom of expression are now grappling with questions of power, privacy, and profit. But before we dive into this fascinating topic, for those listeners, viewers who may not be familiar with your work, would you mind introducing yourself, please, Stephanie?
I'm Stephanie. I am founder of Aestora, which is a think tank about how we use AI to facilitate love. I started my career in management consulting at Accenture, then went to Google on their business strategy team, realized things were going to go a little bit amiss, went to the Kennedy School to study policy, helped set up DeepMind's ethics team, and then went to Google X, which was amazing, before setting up Aestora.
Can we just touch on the bit that you did before all of that? Where you studied, what you studied, why you studied it, and what your route was before going into management consulting and then technology.
Yeah, so it was a slight pivot. So initially I wanted to enter the church, and so I studied biblical studies, but I realized as a late teenager that I just really wanted to hide. That was why I wanted to be a nun, and it wasn't actually my calling. I just was so overwhelmed with the world that I thought, oh, to be honest, at least if I become a nun, I'll be a good person, which unfortunately isn't as simple as that. But for a child, that was my best shot. So studied biblical studies and then made that very obvious move into management consulting. I was like, Bible, best-selling book of all time. And so it's really amazing to me how relevant biblical studies has been, and being in that realm of faith has been, to understand the AI world and what's going on, and just how humans don't really change.
Why is it? Why do you see there's such a parallel between what we see as God or salvation and the AI world?
Oh, wow, we're going straight into it.
This is an aside. This is a sojourn from the questions. But just to frame your thinking on where technology is at the moment, why do you think there is such a link between God and where technology is headed?
Well, at the highest level, I think we're just in a lot of pain. We're just in a lot of collective trauma. Things are really hard. I mean, you walk down the street, buy a plastic bottle, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm supporting the climate catastrophe and everything's going to burn. And then what's happening with the economy, and like, am I going to get a job? And how do I protect my children? And what's going on with this war and that war? And how am I involved in what's happening in Sudan? And why am I wearing this jumper that's cheap? And it's like, who have I exploited for this? Like, it's becoming like almost unbearable and overwhelming, that it's very natural that we want a savior. And we've understood the challenges of institutional religions. Economic theories haven't really made it better for us. And so we want something new that's familiar. And so a lot of the AI narrative is reframing the concept of the savior, because we're lost. So it's really the demand that creates the narrative. And what's amazing about the Bible, you don't need to be religious to appreciate that it is the best description of, or one of the best descriptions of, mankind and its virtues and its vices over thousands of years. And we're really consistent. We can't stay in times of despair for very long without having some story that can give us hope. And unfortunately, the AI story came in and gave us hope, and that died very quick. That was just like, boop, boop, and now it's just another depressing feature. Okay, it's not going to save the climate. It's actually destroying it even more. It's just 10xing it. It's not bringing us together. It's making us more lonely. It's not supporting the economy. It's making us poorer. But for a moment, that was our hope.
Do you think that hope has gone, though?
Yeah, I think, oh,
you
God.
think about that answer.
When you hear, oh, God, I think it's really hard to not hear AI and think, oh. Your eyes just roll immediately, because this is going to be nonsense, but I have to jump on the AI bandwagon because I can't tell my boss. It's obviously nonsense, isn't it? I can't, you can't have the fight. So you have to engage in all these things that, like, I rarely see anybody believe in. And even the term artificial intelligence, like, artificial is just so, it's like artificial sweetener. Yeah, exactly. It's like, it just,
so
yeah, it's like, yeah, exactly. It's like,
do you think that's because we're trying to I mean, this is going way off topic.
Yeah, let's try and stick to the
Yeah.
substance.
Coming from the man who
Yeah, he just
introduced the
went
whole
straight in with God. Yeah, yeah.
It was about framing.
No,
the
go on. So
take on
give the question.
Yes. So anyway, I've lost the train of thought of what question I did have, which I'll come back to.
You were
at
saying
the-
well,
Good.
you only got to do you think?
It was more about AI and just in terms of so what I was thinking about that question. Thank you for reminding me and prompting me.
Yeah.
I know you love these segues.
Thanks.
But, one of the things that is do you think we're projecting too much onto it? We're expecting too much of it. We kind of put all of as you said, hope earlier. You mentioned.
Yeah.
We kind of look at it and go, oh, right, it's going to be this. And when we instead of just calling it software, we call it artificial intelligence because we kind of have to market it somehow, give it a great brand, but it is software.
Yeah,
And do you
absolutely.
think part of it is we just project too much onto it, and that's part of the reason why sometimes that hope goes down because we're thinking about it in something which it isn't.
Yeah, absolutely. We've anthropomorphized it. Yeah. We've turned it into a human, and like what we've projected is so far from what is possible that it is a faith because it's not mathematically or technically possible. So it's faith. And we have projected so many of our hopes and dreams and aspirations and accountability onto it. And that is just a thing we do with human nature. Like we're faith-based creatures. I mean, it doesn't matter what you put faith in. You have to put faith in something, whether it's science, whether it's the economy, whether it's God. We need faith to survive. We need to believe that something is possible to have meaningful existence. And so, yeah, we've totally projected onto it, just as we've always done and probably will do.
I think when you speak just now, I heard that and I was like, that's hope.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, they're quite similar, yeah.
Hope.
Yeah. Faith is such a loaded word because people imagine they're like, but it is hope. It's something much.
It's hope for the future.
It's something very simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because we have these allergic reactions to the words, we don't really get to talk about just the honest truth that, yeah, everybody wants to have a hopeful life.
Yeah.
You can't be a human without hope, and you have to have hope in something.
I agree. I'm with you. Let's go back to social media and let's start by framing what social media is for us, each of us, because I think everyone has a different relationship with it. So let's define what each of our relationship is with social media, and hopefully that will give us a nice, backdrop from which we can take the conversation forward. Stephanie, would you like to go first?
Yeah.
I don't really use social media that much. Obviously, when I was at uni, we used Facebook. And used to share photos and actually once a few years ago I went through my old Facebook wall and was like, oh great, delete. And then I used to use Instagram, but I went off it because it just didn't make me feel good about myself. And now I've got a Blue Sky account.
Okay.
Which
so you're
is
still interested?
Yeah, I mean I don't mind it.
Yeah.
I don't mind it, but I just don't love it either. So I have a Blue Sky account on my desktop, not on my phone. And I fill up my time that I used to spend scrolling with Vinted, which at least to me feels productive.
So just out of pure curiosity of market research, just to help me, Vinted, how long's that relationship been going? And how is that going? Because I've suddenly looked at my bank statements over the last month and suddenly discovered lots of little purchases on Vinted, which previously weren't there.
Vinted is actually so good, and I've sold a lot of stuff on Vinted and I didn't cash out my balance at the end, and so it also feels so primal because I'm like buying things without having to use money. Like it's like an exchange. I'm like, it feels so real. And then I'm like, I don't have the climate catastrophe worry. I don't have the guilt of spending money, and it's like a 1 in, 1 out on my wardrobe. So it's like very regimented. So yeah, I'm learning though, because I used to be a bit too trigger happy, but now I'm like, something's going to have to go to get more. So
it just makes me laugh because sometimes I get up and when you sort of bank accounts ping you, don't they? Especially if you have shared accounts with, so I get these little messages going, ping, you've just spent £5.12 in Vinted. And I was like, I'm in the office. I don't think I've spent £5.12 in Vinted.
But if you sell stuff on it, and it's really easy to sell stuff, and then you don't cash out, it really just feels like it's free. So do you know what? Not social media, but they've got me.
Really
They've
good
given,
dopamine.
yeah, I'm getting the dopamine hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting the dopamine hits. That's how I've transitioned. I'm not enlightened. I've transitioned to something else that makes me feel better about myself.
It's
And
good.
just that hope for that bargain. It's just that when you get that taste, it's real.
Can you get addicted to vintage?
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Greg.
My relationship with social media. So I've worked in the...
So it feels like I'm doing therapy with you now.
No, please. I've worked in the media and marketing and advertising space for 20 years. So my relationship with... there's a bit of a sort of background to this. I was there when Facebook first opened up its APIs, and it allowed marketers everything, took advantage of it.
When you say everything, listen to this.
So for free, we could plug into Facebook's API and we could understand everything about you. This was pre-Cambridge Analytica. We utilized this to sell data. Well, we harvested data on individuals, I say consumers, they're called consumers, to big CPG brands or big conglomerates. You are just a consumer. You are an audience member within their ICP profile. And so we would harness all of the data from Facebook to understand who their target customer was, what they were looking at across other platforms, and then we would target them with ads. So I did that for many years, and we did that across lots of media platforms. I also ran the European arm for a social media technology platform called Brand Networks, and I worked in that space for many years.
But you use it.
So
that's your history.
Yeah,
with
like
social-
use
So what's
it.
your relationship?
So my relationship with it, and I think that frames my relationship with it, I'm very conscious of the bad sides of it. And it's probably worth mentioning I set up a platform to identify disinformation, which was mostly spread across social media. So I understood the damage that social media causes in society and then set up something to try and obfuscate against that. My relationship with it now is nothing. I'm on LinkedIn. I don't have a Facebook account. I have an Instagram account, but I don't go on Instagram because it's a waste of your time. It's soul sapping, puerile drivel fed to you. And, Nouriel's Nudge, he wrote a book called Unnudge, didn't he? So they built all of these micro tactics within these apps, within these platforms to drive your usage up. And that's what keeps us coming back. That's what keeps people coming back. I can understand how kids, when they're young, sort of get trapped in a cycle of wanting it and wanting to keep using it. But my relationship with it is one of cynicism.
Sometimes it's a laugh.
Are you an active cynic?
Yeah, I'm an actor. I'm definitely an active cynic. Facebook is just, and I worked across businesses that built their organizations off the back of Facebook before the days that they didn't prioritize news content, and it at a point was fantastic. It was fantastic for small businesses. It doesn't operate like that, and so it had its uses. I think it still has some positives in terms of connecting people, but ultimately it's just a minefield. The whole social media ecosystem is an absolute minefield.
And actually, just on that, we'll get
Yeah,
to
well,
me in a
that,
second.
yeah.
But just on, because what do we I think social media is such a broad category, isn't it? What do you categorize as social media?
So I actually have got a definition of it here, but the reason I'm going to not use this definition is because everyone is trying to build a community amongst their audience members. So social media can now be applied. Vinted puts in mechanics where you can have comments and you can add people and you can follow people. Oh, what has this person bought? What has that person bought? So social media is now expanded beyond just connecting with your friends and your peers on a traditional social media platform to being purely entertainment, to then being a community built off the back of any brand's audience. So anywhere where people can connect is really what it is.
Because you love YouTube. You're a bit of a YouTube fan. Would you consider that social media?
It is actually. Yes. So thank you for bringing that up. I do have a relationship with YouTube. So
Is it a healthy relationship? Is it a late night relationship?
Is it on speed dial? Is YouTube on speed dial for the YouTube booty call?
I can't get to sleep. Let me watch my horoscope.
I now watch. Actually, it's really interesting to bring up YouTube.
Yeah.
Because we don't really touch on the creator economy in this episode. I took it out because we can go down a whole sort of pathway which isn't necessary. But YouTube is your more traditional creator, has a more traditional creator economy on there. And I would argue that there's more people now and I'm sure there's data to back this up, sorry, I don't have it to hand, that watch YouTube and influencers, not all of them, I would advise you spend time wasting on it, than watch traditional TV. Because it's just easier to dip in and out and to find little pockets of society that appeal more to you than what traditional TV does.
Yeah, I do have to admit that I've
Yeah,
just
yeah.
watched I've just watched Newlyweds, which was Jessica Simpson and Nick
Okay, so
Samming's
you're in the
TV
bracket.
show
You're in that
from
bracket.
back in the day on
Wasn't that
YouTube.
like 15 years ago?
Yeah. It's so retro, but they've got the
Nostalgic
whole
watch,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah, they've got the whole thing up. Yeah.
I'm sure, because isn't she remarried and got sort of teenage children now?
I hope so. But it's like all this nostalgic TV is all there.
So,
I recommend it.
So yeah, what's
yeah,
your
so
relationship?
my
with social
relationship
media,
with social
given that
media,
you're a dad as well.
well, so my relationship, so I only use LinkedIn.
Yeah, I use LinkedIn.
I use LinkedIn
Yeah,
purely for
okay, me too.
professional purposes. Years ago, in about 2010, I used to have a Facebook account, and I didn't really use it, and I wasn't really, and I remember about 2010.
With that hair, have you still got?
No, I didn't have. This was post hair
I'm going to share that bit.
at some point.
It's gonna come up in.
I used to have
the
long
screen,
blonde hair
yeah.
down, looking like a surfer
yeah.
when I was about
Cool.
18.
I'm going to put it on screen.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe I should have. I should have done one of those disappearing photos, shared it. On
Oh
the,
yeah, Snapchat.
yeah.
We didn't talk about
Yeah.
Snapchat.
Anyway,
We're too old for Snapchat.
That's true. Yeah.
We missed it.
Yeah. So no. So my thing with social media was in about 2010. I looked. It was Facebook was the dominant one, and it still is today. I looked at it and just went, I don't really use it. I don't see the value of it to me. I'm not getting anything from it. And also, what I didn't like was just the trajectory of the privacy around it. And I didn't like the idea of posting everything online, your whole life, your whole persona, and everything else like that. I didn't really. To me, they just felt a little bit.
Yeah, because then advertisers will get you.
Well, so there was that, but also then I looked at him and who owns all of that data now? Is it me or is it another company? And I thought, as I move forward, it's not about what was done necessarily in 2010. It's about you look into the future and go, where's technology going? Where's society going? Is that going to be actually something which I feel as if I want is going to be beneficial to my life? So yeah, in 2010, I actually turned around and deleted everything from Facebook. So the only thing so I don't use Instagram, I don't use Facebook, I don't use any of those typical platforms. So I use LinkedIn because I use it for my professional side of things. And that's pretty much it. Maybe do I occasionally look at YouTube? Obviously, it depends what we're classifying as social media, because also social media for some category or some people's view, things like WhatsApp is considered social media.
One-to-many communication.
Yeah. So that does come as part of social media as well. So yeah, I use WhatsApp as well. Well, that's it.
I keep social media just to the really obvious ones like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. I'm like, okay, so you guys don't use it, so you don't know the joy of after you've spent like an hour mindlessly scrolling and you just get that banger that just makes you laugh out loud. You don't know that pull. You don't know that incredible rapturous moment that keeps you going.
Could it almost be likened to, what do they call those godlike moments where you have that sort of...
Eureka.
Not eureka, because that...
Epiphany?
Sort of that moment of where you have that psychic connect, godlike connect.
Maybe. I mean, some of it is just so funny, but the reason why I went off it is it just takes too long now to find it.
Did you feel guilty afterwards? This is the thing. You look at it because you can even LinkedIn. They've changed it. And
I don't like LinkedIn anymore. I do actually have LinkedIn, but I find it. I don't know what they did to the algorithm, but it's got really boring, and it's really hard to keep up to date with the people that I'd want to. So I don't even look at the homepage really anymore.
Tell me about your relationship that you have with your kids and social media, because you're a dad, we're not parents. So that's really important.
Yeah, because there's definitely a generational. My father will look at Facebook and he turns around and whatever newspapers you read, and there's a generational thing. And I think then I look at my children and the way in which they use social media. Now they're young, so they are 11 and 8, the youngest ones. And their relationship with social media is my eldest is just emerging into that. But social media also does include games like Fortnite, Roblox. Yeah. There is social connection through these games. But also it's not just a social connection, it's then the monetization of it. And that's the monetization of that addiction, and whether that's social media, whether that's classified as social media or gaming, but that's the having to get the latest skins or having to get the latest where the kids want to go. They turn around, like, they will say, "Oh, Daddy, can I spend X amount on Robux?" Yeah, Robux. And because they want to buy a new set of skins, which is just basically digital clothing for their characters, their sort of avatars. So I think it is that side of things. It's tricky because you're trying to navigate from a personal perspective that bit where you want them to. I don't believe in prohibition. I don't believe that saying, yeah, everything's bad, you can't do it, don't do it. I believe in trying to teach them to do things responsibly because, you know, for example, one glass of wine's okay.
Yeah.
Drinking
For an
10
11-year-old.
I mean, we're fine with that. We're very
It's just-
European
it's
now, so,
just-
you know,
101 here.
It's just really hard to teach children what you don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what's okay for Robux because I don't know what it is. Whereas with wine, you know, we've had thousands of years
True. Good
to
point,
understand
yeah.
the limits. There's laws, there's rules, there's scientific studies. You know, there's also your own personal experience of when it's gone wrong. But on Robux, I don't know what the implications of saying yes or no mean.
But I think, I mean, when I look at it as a dad, though, right, is one of those things you go, I think what we should do is make sure that there's the right age for them to be on there where they can make conscious
25.
decisions. It's more teaching them that whatever they're doing in the digital world does have ramifications in the real world. And so, for example, going back to your point about being a parent, our children aren't photographed or put onto social media. And we've made a conscious decision about that. And it's not, again, it's interesting because I chat to other members of the family. In my family, we have people spread around the world. So social media could be a potential huge boon because all of a sudden I can share with a family in Australia, South Africa, the UK, when we're living in Asia, 4 different locations potentially at once. For me, the social media, I don't share the photos. It's not because I'm worried about what's going to happen today. It's about what could happen in the future. And one of the things which I'd love to hear your view on is just is talking about the parallel CV potentially social media creates. And maybe that's a topic we're going to get onto later. I think social media does. You no longer, we all have our work personas, we all have our personal personas, we have our home personas and stuff like that. I think maybe social media starts to create a parallel CV. And what I don't, from my children's perspective, it's not my right to start saying, here's the photo of them on holiday in these locations doing X, Y, Z, because at a future date, someone may look at that and go, oh, things have changed geopolitically around the world or whatever else. We know your backgrounds. And that's not, I don't think, our right to do that to the children.
People have been disallowed jobs because of their social media profile. Yeah.
It is hard though, because what you are describing though is living in a state of fear of the unknown and not knowing how to manage or protect your children for the future. And that is a very real challenge that people across the world are experiencing. And it's a real anxiety that stops you even being able to be joyful with your family because you're scared.
I wouldn't classify it as fear. I'd say it is more about we don't know what's going to happen in the future. So let's act with intention now and basically make a conscious decision so that people can, once we know what's going to happen in the future, then we can make a decision about what we do or don't want to do and how we want to partake.
Isn't your cautiousness, if you had a scale of fear with lions at one end, a nice sleepy evening in at the other, watching a horror movie, in between that, you've got sort of levels of cautiousness.
Yeah.
You are still on that scale of fear, but you're on the sort of lower end of it. It's still a fear.
I don't know. I'd rather see the lions personally.
I think.
Well, it's true. Yeah, I'd like
Down
behind,
the high street.
yeah, exactly.
I
But
do
doing
think that
would be
that's
amazing.
one of the most damaging things about social media that doesn't get a lot of attention is that it has been really masterful in getting everybody to experience just like a low level of constant misery. It's like not really enough that you're like, I'll go off this or we'll collectively ban it or whatever, but it's just enough to sort of keep you low and keep you down. And it's like, it's just this low level of, like, I don't know how they've done it, but they've designed it so well that it's like, it's just enough to keep you not depressed, but just like, nah.
It's like any addiction. So you have to come down. You need to keep going back.
It's just, it's
for that
microdosing.
dopamine hit.
Yeah, it's like microdosing fear constantly. It's like,
It depends what you're watching. It depends what the algorithm's serving you. I mean, if you're a 11-year-old girl, boy, you're not going to be seeing the same kind of stuff. Although actually,
no, you will though, because
you are.
you
Because they're being
will.
pushed stuff
And
about,
because we did a study.
You're not fitting in, aren't you?
this,
the whole
yeah,
muscle.
I had this wonderful intern called Maria, and we did this study looking at Instagram Reels, TikTok Reels, and looking at what Gen AI would say it was age appropriate for. And so it was like jokes about threesomes. And what ChatGPT Gen AI would say is that it's appropriate for an 8-year-old. Jokes about suicide, it's appropriate for a 10-year-old. So, yeah, no, children are seeing this stuff. And we just, like, you know, you're not wrong to be concerned about the future. And that's the scary bit. Like, these are platforms where children are economic vehicles.
Yeah.
And even the whole conversation that they have set up on child safety is manipulative because it's not their, you know, immediately cuts the parent out. It's like, we have access to all these kids and we're actually abusing them, but it's our responsibility to abuse them a bit less, but still profit from them. And you don't have an in, actually, parents. You don't actually have an in, except when we don't do it, then we can blame you because you didn't do enough. And it's like, no, why are major corporates alone with kids? When did that become okay? It's not even part of their T's and C's. Like, they shouldn't be on there as agreed by their T's and C's, but we won't allow that. And it's all become this muddled mess. And this story about child safety and big tech can save children instead of the question of, why are you obsessed with kids? Why do you want to be around little kids?
The same reason that cigarette companies would never openly admit that their target market was 13 to 14-year-olds.
Yeah.
Right, because they could get them young and they could keep them for as long as possible as customers before
Yeah. It's like the Happy
they
Meal.
die or they get forced to stop. And yeah,
it's like the Happy Meal. It's a known strategy. Kids early, and then they become much more malleable and lifelong customers.
Yeah.
And so they're obviously not going to be the ones to fix it.
I was never allowed McDonald's as a kid. Don't eat it now.
I was,
never allowed.
and I loved it. And it was always happy memories as well associated
Wouldn't
to
touch
McDonald's.
McDonald's.
It's just, it's not as good now.
Well, I don't know.
Well,
Your taste.
Maybe my tastes have changed.
I mean, there's a bit weird. You had a Ronald McDonald doing a slightly scary clown.
Yeah.
I remember, I think as growing up, I was allowed it. No, actually, we weren't allowed it at all. There was literally carte blanche, no.
Until.
And then my children, they were allowed it once a year.
Your children.
Yeah, allowed it once a year. We have a rule in that, and it's like, okay, so it's early in the year when you need to use your junk food voucher.
That's very cool. I like that.
We were very different. We had McDonald's all the time, and like the height of opulence would be like when we'd also get this massive box of nuggets to share for the table. That was like, wow, that was so good. And after school, we used to go to McDonald's, KFC. You never had the KFC Christmas burger?
I didn't realise KFC did a Christmas.
Oh, wow. Sometimes they're iconic.
Yeah. Looking at going,
the Christmas sandwich at KFC.
Oh,
wow.
I like the fact that you allow your kids to have one junk food voucher a year. So it's not just for McDonald's, it's for any junk food, right? And do they mark it off on the calendar?
It's not quite circled, but occasionally.
Only 364 days till junk food day.
But what we have got to is and this is going way, way off topic, but what we have got to is my son's the other day, he's only, as I said, my oldest is 11. He was coming home from school and all of his friends had just left school and they were all going to KFC. And he phoned me up and said, could I have some...
Crying as he did it.
He phoned me up. I mean, he wasn't...
Dad, can I
get some popcorn chicken?
Can I get advance on my voucher?
But he phoned me up and asked, can I have KFC
and
with his mates?
No.
And I said, look, we're responsible for feeding you. The answer is no. I said, you can go there with your friends, hang out with them.
Love that.
You know, go and have fun. Everything
you know he snuck some, though, don't you?
Yeah, you know he crushed a bucket.
He did phone me up and asked me and said, oh, okay, he might have phoned me several times and asked me, you know, during that process. But he actually...
Please tell me no.
Try
again. And it was like that. It was a little bit like that, to be honest. But it was... He phoned me up, so there was that. But also, he didn't. I think he did get a couple of nuggets, and I think because one of his mates said to me, I've had enough nuggets, and he said to me he didn't eat any. I was like, even I would resist, you know, if that had been left there. But I think, you know, that's why I say if we actually do, that's why I don't believe in prohibition, because actually if you do, going back to that original point, if you let them have a little bit and teach them the right way, I think there is definitely, I'm not saying it's perfect, but there's definitely hope.
I think you're absolutely right. The difficulty is at the moment that the majority, and we've got to get on to the next question. Let's end on this point. But the majority of parents are so busy at the moment. You've got two parents, mum, dad, whatever, doing a job each
Yeah.
to keep their kids in clothes and to keep them happy, to pay the bills, to do all that stuff, to buy the shopping. They don't have time for this style of parenting. I think we would be in a privileged position to be able to have the spare time to train and teach kids like this.
Yeah.
Whereas the majority, it's just easier for them if they just let them kind of their kids get on.
And also, sometimes it doesn't work because it also depends on who the child is. And sometimes, like, even when you put everything right, you know, if my parents like, you can have fast food once a year, I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. I'd be like, before I got home, because I said, yeah, whatever, man. Like, that would have never flied with me because I do like to rebel. Another reason why I wasn't that good in really confined structures. Like, you know, sometimes you do everything right and your parent and your children rebel, especially as they get older, because that is a rite of passage as well, to find it on your own way, to realize, oh, it doesn't make you feel good. And that's why your parents have said that, you know, or to push to find your path. We're so mean to parents. We're being really awful to kids. Yeah, because, like, you know, they're being exploited. But we're also being really awful, really mean to parents, and the expectations of having to get it right on so many things now is so unique in history to have to care about all these things, and everybody work long hours, and it be cost of living crisis, climate catastrophe, God knows what the careers are going to be in the future, how you prep them, all these issues about privacy, social media, and it's like, wow, how do you stay a happy, relaxed parent? Like, how do you get to be in the moment, in the present? How do you manage that really inhumane situation we've put parents in? And that's something we've been working on, and so we do have an idea, but so stay tuned for what's coming. But like, really anchoring it in compassion, like moving away from the fear of like, oh my gosh, this is so awful, like the fear of the tech, into the compassion for the human. And wow, gosh, what you're going through is so hard, and you don't have to get it. It doesn't have to be on your shoulders. Like, you shouldn't have to be an expert in tech to protect your kids. Like, you shouldn't have to research about privacy. It's amazing that you do, but I'm like, wow, I can't hold everyone to your standards. Like, I'm like, you know, when I go to the doctors and I get medicine, I don't check the ingredients, see if it's going to kill me. Like, I don't look in this building, see is it going to collapse me. Like, there's things that we accept are too complicated for everyone to have to do, and we let the experts do it. We need that for tech. Like, it's too much. Like, the expectations we've set on people are so mean. They're so unloving. Like, they're so nasty. And that's the biggest change I think we need to see in, like, moving towards the compassion and community of people to help, like, end that exasperation and judgment. It's harder. It's quite hard.
Well, I will say being a parent is amazing.
Yeah.
It is. I can't tell you how wonderful it is.
This also sounds pretty thankless, to be honest, and everyone's always telling you that you're doing it wrong. Sounds like a little bit annoying.
When you go, we could do a whole episode on how amazing it is, because when your children cuddle you or they just engage with you,
Yeah.
you have those little moments where your son does phone you up, and okay, he did phone 6 times and say,
Yeah,
can I have it?
but he
And
did it.
But he
And
did it.
that's
And you've gotta
beautiful.
go,
And like, those are
yeah.
the moments that we lose in this conversation. It's all about, like, why do we care? And it's like, because those are the moments that we love.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you long for, isn't it?
And
Like that you can trust your child, that you're together, that you get the cuddles. And I'm like, and with innovation, this is a bit of a tangent, but I'm like, what are we actually innovating for? What does progress look like? Because if it doesn't look like more of that, if it doesn't look like children smiling and happy, then it's not progress and it's not innovation, and there's no point to it. It's just corporate endeavors. But I'm like, of course, magic of being a parent. It's, you know, I hear so many people, even in my own generation, say, oh, I don't want to be a parent because, you know, it's unfair, like this world. But I'm like, God, that's the greatest joy in life, isn't it? Like, family is magic. But we're so bogged down with, like, what are the algorithms doing to me, that it's like, can't even really hold that magic.
Yes, but also you do take, I think it's interesting because sometimes we put the technology in between real life.
Yeah.
So quite often we look through technology to real life beyond it. Yeah. And actually what we need to do is take that technology out of the way, and just so we can focus on real life. And it's interesting, and give you a classic
Can't
example.
put a filter over it then, can you?
No, but last night
There's no commercial incentive.
one of my children was singing in the school choir at the Christmas lights switch on next down sort of Putney High Street, and
It's amazing.
My son was singing in it, and my youngest one, and it was just lovely. Everyone's up there with their phones recording. And yes, I did do my little moment where the 20-second clip here and there of them singing. That's only because I want to share it with I'll send a personal message to my family overseas and stuff like that. But the rest of the time, it's like, no. And then when I look, he saw me in the crowd, in the audience, and he's just massive smile. And you are there going, that's worth any dopamine hit.
Yeah.
That's worth more than an hour scrolling down a.
I mean,
feed, as
it's
we were
the
talking about,
dream.
And
Like, if we're honest, like, for so many people, that's a dream.
But that is also the world we live in and the world we occupy, and it's there. It is there, and we can go and achieve it. Anyway, I know you want to move on to the next question.
Let's keep.
Yeah, let's.
But that's really great to keep in front of mind, because you're right, we can achieve it.
Yeah.
I think there's a whole other conversation around whether parents have been pushed down, because in a lot of, we're of an age where we grew up analog, and there are parents now who grew up with being technology natives, social media natives. Their view of the world is very different, and their view of the world is not our view of the world. And you discerning that, seeing your child's happy, smiley face looking back at you from stage is not their idea of it. It's not their peak of parenting for them. We're looking at it with very rose-tinted glasses. I think society has changed.
Maybe, but I think it's also within our agency to make those. We can be conscious about the choices we make.
We can, but we do also need to be a bit so, because I know I swing between. Life is so beautiful. But the challenge is, as soon as a child gets on social media, it doesn't matter how well-meaning you are as a parent, you don't have oversight anymore. And you're not the one who gets to determine what the values are on sex, on mental health, on relationships, on drugs. That is now coming from another force, and you don't know what's in the information. The government doesn't know what's in the information. Even the tech companies don't know.
Yeah.
So like, that is an incredible social experiment, to isolate children away from their parents and to give them information that nobody knows. We only know that there's a lot of money to make in manipulation from a lot of different characters. And what can a parent do? In that regard, it gets quite difficult, because the worldview is not determined by you. It used to be your child represents you. That's what my mum would say. Yeah, my mum would be like, you represent me. And, now a teenager represents the algorithms they see, not the family. And one of the things that I've written about on AI and family is, in the Industrial Revolution, the family nuclearized. And in this AI revolution, it's atomized. Yeah. You can be, not trying to scare you can be as well-meaning as you want, but your child is upstairs in their room and you can't protect them. That's why we invented the digital health score, to help parents do that, and to scan on the emotional manipulation and to give you a really simple view. But it was still a bit too fearful, so we've built it around a much more positive, calming solution. But what do you do in that regard? And that's where it's so hard to put the pressure on parents, because you have companies like Meta who say parents should know, like with Molly Russell, the first teenager who committed suicide by social media, death by social media. It's just ludicrous that we have allowed Meta to say to the parents, oh, you should have known what they were doing, and at the same time say, we couldn't stop it because it's way too complicated for us. It's like, well, decide, okay, is it too complicated for you with your hundreds of thousands of employees at the top level, or is it so easy that every parent should know how to do this?
That's a really good argument. Yeah.
It's horrendous. I don't even think about it, but
she's not the only one as well.
Yeah.
No,
There have been a lot of deaths, both murders and suicides, attributed to the impact of social media.
What I was going to say, is it
young people?
Is it because the root cause of it is the technology itself?
Multifaceted.
Sometimes we sort of project onto the technology that it has a personality. It's malevolent.
It's just the way the algorithmic cycle works.
But that's a human being who's turned around and said, I will make a conscious choice about that.
No.
What I mean is, there's someone who sat there and designed something and said, I'm going to design an algorithm which behaves like this.
The algorithmic loops, because you might search depression once, and then what this algorithm's going to do is make it more and more extreme to get more clicks, because, they optimize for profit. They optimize to keep you on longer and to get more engagement. And the way to do that, I know we like to think we're really emotional, we're really intelligent, but we're actually really emotional. So it's worked out. The more I make you feel worse about yourself, the more you stay on here.
Hang on. They optimize for the emotional extreme. So
yeah, but
exactly
they've not.
like Gal.
They're not going to. They're not interested in enlightenment. They're not interested in you rising your consciousness. Because do you know what you can do? Get off your phone and go outside. It's all emotion based, and it's based on negative emotions and making those more extreme.
I don't think it's always negative emotion, because I think they optimize for the biggest emotion. It just happens to be, if I've never looked at depression on social media, so therefore I don't get fed anything.
I can tell you one thing that
for bunnies or rabbits, I get fed of lots of bunnies or rabbits.
Do you know where I don't agree with you on that?
I don't want to look at your.
Where I don't agree with you on that, because I was always looking at puppies and affirmations, yeah.
And you get fed lots of them.
No, you started to get fed loads of things about depression. I was like, I'm not depressed, actually. I'm living in cuckoo land. I'm fine.
On what platform was this?
On Instagram. It moves so quickly before you know it. And if I didn't work in tech, because I remember taking it to my colleagues at X, to be like, what is going on? And that's how I realized they need you to be more negative. Like, who's going to pay for ads for happiness? Who's paying for those ads? No one. Like, the money isn't there, because you need to stay on the platform as long as possible, and you need to engage as long as possible, which means you need to be as isolated as possible. Like
you made a really good point.
What we went through, and he was saying he put up a picture of beer, and then he started to get all these things about being an alcoholic. And we realized, wow, it moves towards negativity. So if you want a solution, you have to move towards positivity. You have to intervene and do that counterbalance. If I didn't work in tech, you know, the way the human brain works, like the illusionary truth principle, you show somebody something enough times, they believe it.
Yeah.
If I didn't work in this field and you kept showing me and saying that I'm depressed because I'm looking at affirmations and I think Bernese mountain dog puppies are just adorable, I might think, actually, yeah, hold on, maybe I am depressed. And then boom, I'm on that spiral. And this is me as an adult who works in tech. If I was a teenager, it's unbelievable. And it's like they've decided the algorithms work like that because they have a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders to increase revenue. That's all, you know, there's not going to be any decision. They're not going to say, oh, do you know what? Let's let go of revenue, even though it would be better for their long term, but they're not going to do it. So,
but that was getting to my point. It was actually the people behind it. And this is what I'm trying to get to is it's the people behind it making those decisions to choose how they sort of operate. But also, the other thing we need to do is if people weren't bullying and using technology as a platform to convey it, to distribute their bullying, then maybe it's also we need to turn around and start looking at society and saying, that's not you can't do bullying online. You can't do this. We need to
But there's bullying at the national level. There's also countries like this is an age of psychological warfare. You have a new way of war is to pay to get the children in another country to want to kill themselves. Like, so it's not just bullying. Yeah, it's like we're in a cold war in an age of psychological warfare.
Yeah.
And on the Molly Russell piece, you know, what happened to Molly was absolutely awful. And what happened to her parents was a disgrace. Like, the way we treated her parents collectively as a society was a disgrace. When I read about that story, it brought, like, I had to sit down, it brought me to tears. And that was the inspiration for the digital health school. But I could not believe that we were treating her parents in that way. Like, that was the time
they became the scapegoats.
That was the time for compassion, to take this really seriously, for change. Like, if a child dies like that, sort of, they need to become an angel. Like, we need to make meaning of that tragedy by saving other people, by taking it seriously, by changing. It's the only way to make sense of something so awful. But we didn't. Like, we didn't. We just told them you should have done more. I couldn't believe how we wronged the entire family. It really shook me. It really changed where I was going. And then that's where the foundation of how do you intervene? Like, what could have helped bring love here? I mean, I don't even know, because obviously I don't know the full details, but that was the moment to stop and pause, because now, there's lots more children, but they've also perfected their arguments in court, built up this more complex story about child safety, and made it impossible, like, to really break against it, or seemingly impossible. You know, obviously anything's possible.
Can I touch on one of these questions, which is, what do we think has been the sort of top 3 impacts of social media on society?
I think the first thing, I think the biggest thing is that it's very disorientating. It's disorientated us. So you don't know what to compare to. You don't know where the line of what's real is. So it's like, you know, you see these, you end up thinking, oh, a holiday, I should probably be on a yacht then. Like you start comparing things with not even real elite things. You're comparing it to fake ideas. It's like, oh, what toothbrush should I get? It should be the best toothbrush. What Christmas sandwich? As if I'm going to prep now. No, I need elite. Like, it's like everything is so disorientated now, because it's like, what does a good life look like? What does normal look like? I don't know anymore, because everything's so extreme and largely fake. So I'm like setting my expectations on these nonsense things, and whether you're happy or not just depends on whether you've met your expectations in life. So I'm like, you know,
very true.
Now, no, the Christmas sandwich at Pret, it just doesn't do it.
It's so disorientating.
We can do one each if you want.
All right, let's do one each. So,
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I was going to ask is, I think sometimes I have a question in my mind, which is around what you spoke about just now, which is people have always been aspirational, and is the social media and the perception way of which people's lifestyles and so forth are portrayed on social media, is that not just an amplification of what was previously?
No, because it's all fake.
No, but what I mean is, previously I could go to W.H. Smith's when people still read magazines and stuff like that, and you could buy a magazine going, you know, yachts and yachting, and you could look at nice boats and go, oh, I'd like to have one of those one day, wherever it may be. Or you could look at Town and Country magazine and go, oh, I'd like a country estate, look at that. And so that people's aspiration, we've always been aspirational.
Yeah. But you know what? Back in the day, you actually could have got it. No. I mean, you could have got it. You could have gone into management consulting, into corporate law, and actually gone on a yacht holiday if you really wanted to, or bought a country estate. Yeah. But you can't do that anymore. You know, it's like Cardi B said, corporate jobs and you broke. Yeah, you can't afford. What can you afford? Even if you work at McKinsey, what are you going to send your children to private school? Likely. So probably be in a one-bed flat.
I argue it's slightly different in that instead of having a magazine, which you can put down, you are being force-fed a future for yourself which is completely unrealistic, or a current situation for yourself which is completely unrealistic. The most beautiful people in the world already artificially augmenting themselves to look better in settings that they have paid for, fake private planes, fake yachts, and it's just so unholy realistic now.
Yeah, I saw this
comical, because do we just look at it and go,
no, because people buy into it. Young people buy into it because they're on these platforms from when they're young. They have, as Stephanie said, nothing to compare it to. They believe that's what their life should be.
Yeah, and
because they are malleable. Their minds aren't
and because you're overwhelmed with it. But also, there is a really amazing photographer I saw her documentary, but I can't remember the name. And what she's saying is like, yeah, you used to be able to get rich. That was the aspiration. But now it's about looking rich, because, you know, like, wealth has consolidated so much, opportunities have consolidated so much that actually you're probably not going to get rich. You might not be able to buy a house. And so the best you can hope for is whether you can look rich online. And that's where we are. It's like, it's all just the facade. And that's what makes it so disorientating, because it's not even really achievable. It's not like, oh, do you know, if I work really hard, I'm going to buy, you know, a big house, or it's like, I might just be able to live. Like now, I might just be able to.
Can we move on to the next one? So I'll go with one. But going back to the question with what's the three impacts of social media on society? Mine is going to be so the ability for anyone to spread ideologies on social media at a pace of which we have never seen before has changed society fundamentally. If you look at the Stockport riot, if you look at, I mean, this cuts across all topics of discussion, but the Stockport comes up in my mind first of all because I was up in Manchester yesterday and I went past it on the train, and it just brought it to mind how quickly right-wing activists were able to spread disinformation about the assailant, murderer of those poor children, and how that galvanized a community to. So mine is disinformation.
I think it's quite funny. The other day, did you see in the news with, what's it called? X. They now released the location of where people are, and some of the sort of world powers where some of their favourite fans were located with the biggest followings.
China and Russia.
Interesting countries, some of the distribution of those those people who were saying how much they love.
Thank you for lightening that. Yeah. That was a pretty dark.
in terms of the impacts of social media, I think it's a nuanced version of something we talked about here, which is I look at it through the lens of communication, the ability for people still to be able to connect with each other. And one of the ones which has been beneficial is that ability for people to connect around the world. And I look at it, obviously I'm coming from a international family. There is still that ability. I'm not saying it's a real connection. I'm not saying it's a replacement of in real life connection, but there is still that, be it that ability just to reach out and say, hey, here's a picture of us doing Christmas together or Thanksgiving as we're at that time of year. But we are able to share those moments. And I think that is quite a wonderful thing. And I think that has actually been a benefit of it.
Good. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, on the disinformation, yes, like it's a psychological warfare game. That's why I'm very compassionate to parents, because I'm like, I don't really think it's fair to expect like a parent to be able to outsmart like Russian and Chinese warfare. Like just a side of death. But like, you know, I also do love me a little conspiracy. I find them like quite entertaining. And what triggers me to wonder if they're true is just the lack of trust in the current system. And I think one of the benefits of social media has been that it has exposed a lot of ways that the system that you might identify with might also be giving you mis or disinformation and might also be lying to you. And so it's like it's you know, we always had mis and disinformation. It was just easier for some systems to control it over others. And now that it's a fair game to everybody, it's sort of all getting exposed. And it's a mess now because we don't know how to move forward or structure it or what it means. But it's also the realization that, oh, you have been lied to on a lot of things and you're not getting the truth. And who are the good guys? Who are the bad guys? Like, it's really, it's opened the mind a lot, but and we haven't quite settled on how to move forward. But it's also coming from us as well. It's also coming from the UK and the US, the disinformation.
Yeah,
It's like
absolutely.
it's
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
it's like everybody's sort of being exposed of having the same tactics.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that moves us on to the point of homogenization. So
Yeah.
the homogenization of, in the instance of the disinformation, everyone's at it, right? But moreover, it's the homogenization of content online. And I think you talked about it, the push for everything to be extreme. Every marketing message that you now see on these platforms is the most extreme. Content now on there is all so polished. None of it looks authentic. Everyone's an influencer. Everyone's doing the same thing. So is the homogenization of content on what we perceive to be traditional social media platforms going to push everyone to more decentralized forms of communication?
I mean, I think so. So like if you take something really simple like jeans, like with the way the platforms work, it's like you bid automatically. If you're a jeans company, you bid automatically for the ad for jeans. And
at the lowest possible rate.
Yeah, exactly. But then as the audience consolidates and platforms like Instagram say, I can get you a bigger audience, I can push out the competition, what you're willing to pay for gets bigger and bigger. And in the end, we're all in the same jeans, which is starting to happen. You know, there's only one style of jean and everyone's buying it. And then you look at influencers and they're all sort of wearing the same thing, and even everybody's faces are the same now. Like, and it's moved that way. Yeah. But and unless they can continue consolidating, you know, people lose interest and they want to go on either decentralized platforms or just find some originality again, some difference. And I think that's what the younger generation are doing. And you see it in fashion, in that they're sort of saying, well, if everyone has those jeans, I don't want it.
Yeah.
And then going to find their own way. And I think that's also what's happening with creativity. Like, why I don't worry about like AI and writers and film and stuff like that is because, well, I mean, we can only watch Fast and Furious so many times.
I think they're going to give it a go.
Yeah, Fast and Furious 27, 28, 29, and maybe, you know, then we just long for creativity and we long for something else. So I think, yeah, it's just got to a consolidated point where it's become a bit boring, and then they can't capture the revenue in the same way, and the whole thing breaks down on that way, and people just go for something else.
Hasn't there always been those moments where there's a lot of just general noise, and then there's that exceptional creativity? And be it like an artist years ago, we'd all potter about at being artists and playing, and we're just a general noise. Then you have someone who just comes up who is a Hockney or a Marley or something like that, who is exceptional. Isn't it? social media is just not amplifying that. And we're all there playing and being artists, and someone comes along who is truly...
Someone will, yeah. And that's what I thought. I read Ways of Seeing, and one of the essays in it was talking about oil paintings of fruit and how that became really popular because it was a sign of wealth. And there were so many oil paintings, like, you know, you go to a gallery and it's like really boring. You've got to walk through them all to be like,
masters.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, none of those painters became that famous, but in that era, that's where Turner came.
Yeah.
And it was like capturing light totally
Very
differently.
interesting.
And it just made you realize, like, wow, okay, there's this other way. And so it's like a lot of what we have now, it's just like the oil painting sort of fruits. Like, they're nice and people want them.
Yeah.
But it's not that.
Pushing the boundaries.
Yeah, just helping you imagine
Is it pushing
what's
the
never been seen, or just capturing life so differently. Like, and that's the thing about AI generated art, is it can't see light. Computers, they don't understand light. They don't.
Well, it's just guessing. It's just not guessing, predicting what it should do next. It's not even seeing. It's not thinking. It's not. And sometimes we give we give technology these characters and try to project onto them. It's not. It's just doing what this piece of software has been written to do.
The difference between artificial intelligence and human intelligence, and there is an argument that there is no difference.
Yeah, that's not a logical argument.
There is no difference.
That's an emotional, hysterical argument that there's no difference.
So the amount of processing power in artificial intelligence, so they don't know how consciousness is born. Right? I know we're going a bit off topic here, but they don't know how consciousness is born. And the amount, they believe one school of thought is the amount of sort of data processing your mind that leads inevitably to a sense of consciousness. I can't remember what the theory is called.
I got to keep it a more professional face on this stuff.
Let it go.
I just think we have to be aligned to mathematics and like have some basic principles of science and maths. And, you know, when we talk about the level of compute, it's like, do you understand the level of compute of the human brains?
It's phenomenal.
Yeah, so like, you know, ChatGPT, it's incredible. You know, ChatGPT is incredible. It uses hundreds of thousands of neurons. The brain uses 86 billion. That's one. So when two people connect, when all of us here in this room is a representation of infinity in terms of the complexity, like we can't even fathom those numbers. And there isn't enough water in the world to facilitate that compute. And we do it with less than the energy for a light bulb. So I'm like, let's just understand numbers. Let's firstly just understand the numbers. Like, mathematically, it's not going to happen. Like, we have limited physical resources and we can't compare it. Number one. Number two, is that you don't, you know, human intelligence, the best of human intelligence, like we've thought about this since basically forever. Yeah. And we have come up with the rules of what it means to be logical. Like, Aristotle came up with a number of rules. We've sort of built the whole Enlightenment on it, the scientific ideal on it. Like, machine learning is the antithesis of those rules. Like, we have the best of human thinking that is reasoned, that follows certain laws, that brings us the enlightenment, that brings us progress. Yeah. And that was the original ambition for AI, with the chess playing tools and Deep Blue and all that stuff. But that wasn't profitable because we don't live in a society that values intelligence. Like, I don't look at the newspapers and say, yeah, those are the smartest people. We don't value intelligence, so it wasn't commercial. What was commercial from that was the hardware and the compute. And so we created cloud and we created machine learning, which says, I can't do the best of human thinking, but I could do the average. I could do the monkey brain. I could do the system 2, like on Kahneman's day. I do the fast thinking. And we've created these huge machines that require a lot of compute, where the money is, that are the average of human thinking, that cannot, by definition, ever reach accuracy. And we're going around saying that that's the peak. It's like, it's literally the opposite of logic. Logic is about accuracy. Machine learning, which is a different technology, is about averages. Like, you can't make averages accurate. Like, so it's like, if we want to talk about human intelligence, we should be embodying the best of human intelligence, which is like real reasoned thinking, and not just like emotive, like needs for salvation and things like that. And just the cold hard light of day, which is machine learning is the antithesis of the ideas of the scientific idea. It happened to become popular right when big tech was about to get regulated up the wazoo, and all of a sudden, we couldn't have regulations for privacy because AI was coming and privacy was going to be even worse. We couldn't sort out advertising because AI was coming and it was going to be even worse. And so we talk about this technology that doesn't exist, that cannot exist. And all the while, machine learning, which is great for ad tech, great for ad sales, incredible for convincing people to need loads of compute and hardware, is just spread like wildfire, and regulation hasn't happened. Like it's not consciousness. It's capitalism.
Like that.
You've
I like
answered
that.
my question that I was going to ask you. You said earlier that a moment ago that we don't value intelligence.
We don't value
Is
intelligence.
it we don't value it, or we can't monetize it as readily as we can monetize other things?
We
We value reading an amazing book, don't we? We value reading something which a piece of theatre or art or something like that. We value that, but you can't necessarily make so much money so easily off it.
Well, no, we don't, because we wouldn't be reading this AI slot, would we, if we actually valued reading quality stuff? Like, we value being in the group. We value sales. I mean, you wouldn't look at social media or the way we operate society and say that's intelligent. I wouldn't be like, oh, yeah, exploiting kids, that's intelligent. I'd say that's pretty stupid, actually. That leads to destruction. Like, no, we don't. Even people say, we have to really worry about our jobs. ChatGPT can write a PhD in 5 minutes and we're going to be outdone. I was like, we don't even pay the top PhDs in the country any reasonable salary, like, let alone read their work. Like, we don't care. That's not what gets you forward. Like, that's not what moves you forward necessarily, because we're not a society that actually cares about intelligence. And it's exactly why in all this discussion about AI, most people don't know the difference between classical AI and machine learning. And most people won't even acknowledge that by definition, it's irrational.
So in all the discussions we're having about social media, are we becoming obsessed with solving yesterday's problem for yesterday's generation? Where the framing of where this conversation was coming from is the internet and social media is experienced by different generations, different ways. And I think sometimes we forget about that. We've got an aging population in Western countries. So I've forgotten when it is going to be, but at some point up to sort of over 65, become 50% of the population. Younger generations, when I look at the teaching now, we're talking about critical thinking. We're talking about analyzing disinformation and misinformation, whereas the older generations don't necessarily understand that. So they don't appreciate how the algorithms work. So really where I was coming with framing that, sort of understand that question is it actually the problems we face or the challenges we face today, are they actually not the challenges we are going to be facing?
So the children also that we spoke to, they also think the problems with their parents. They also think they've gone down rabbit holes and they've bought into misinformation.
It's the liar's dividend.
Yeah. Like, it's basically that everybody in every generation is susceptible in their own ways. Also, parents are a little lost. It's not just what are kids seeing online, but what are the parents seeing online? Like, what am I seeing online? What are my parents seeing online? I mean, I look, my mum, sometimes I do think, oh, what are you saying? What nonsense have you seen? And so it's actually, there is a problem with every generation because we're all susceptible to it. But it's also an opportunity because it means we can all come together. It means any solution that's going to work isn't going to just focus on kids or just focus on parents or the elderly. It's going to actually bring a real sense of community and accountability back. But I do think it's interesting because we focus on kids and we don't realize that we've all...
As children, don't have the ability to directly influence what's going on in politics in terms of government. They don't have the senior positions in organizations to influence sort of the commerce side of things. And so their ability to influence things is quite minimal right now. Don't give it, in future, of course it will be. But those older generations, myself and above, we at the moment may hold senior positions in organizations. So we shape the future of those organizations and how they behave and react. We have the right to vote. So we can go out and influence our referendums. We can go out and influence government and policies and decisions in terms of the governments we choose. So therefore, are we maybe the ones which are more susceptible and the ones which are more vulnerable to misinformation, disinformation, influence of social media, and that our children are actually being, because we've now seen the strings and seen the challenges, they're actually being taught to be able to analyze that a lot better than we can.
Susceptibility test, very online. Gen Z and millennials are most vulnerable to fake news. And that may be because they spend so much of their time online. They have no comparison. They have no understanding of the world in real life outside of their own little filter bubble. We all have our own individualized, personalized view of the world. And for children, for young people that are digitally native, social media native, they've started a world online. And I think it's very hard for them to break that. And when you said earlier about parents thinking their kids are wrong, kids are thinking their parents are wrong.
Yeah.
Now that you have this direct funnel of content straight into your brain, it's very hard to change behavior around that. So,
but it can be done. And I think it's a really good starting ground to realize, maybe the children will lead us. They're not just, it doesn't have to be an argument. It doesn't have to be tools that are like, hey, your child saw this, rip their head off. Like, well, what are you going to do if somebody's like, by the way, your child's seeing all this awful content? How do you tackle that without having an argument? But if they can also come to you and say, you were scrolling till 3 a.m. last night. Actually, you didn't go to sleep, did you? Yeah. Then it changes the dynamic a little bit. And it's like families together. Like there are like opportunities when you sit in that way on how you come together and how people can help, because there's a lot that we can learn from this younger generation. They're not just victims. They're also like very, very smart and our future hope. So there's a lot that they can teach us and a lot that we can teach each other. And that's going to be the way out of this collaboration.
I do agree, because part of it is I look at my children and I look at their education now, and I look at some of the things they're being consciously and intentionally taught as part of their curriculum. And it's not necessarily the hard skills like the science, the maths and stuff like that. It's all of those soft skills. So it is the ability to be critical thinking. And they're actually making conscious effort within this. So you're thinking, so actually looking at that's a positive for the future, because they'll be able to analyze something and go, does that stack up? Is that true? When I compare these two pieces of data, is the evidence there that? So I think I definitely think there's a positive.
Yeah, like I work with a lot of uni students, and it's very relaxing to work with uni students, because you're like, oh, okay, this is the next generation. All right, you fix it. Yeah, sorry, we messed it up a little bit, but good to know that you're actually really smart and really driven, and like you're on it. Like
your own fears onto them. You now go away and solve.
Yeah, and it's like when you're actually around groups, you realize, okay, actually the situation's not as bad as I thought. Like you can trust in people, you can trust that collectively we can have but actually one of the things that I've learned in my life so far is that intelligence everywhere, and so stupidity. And so I'm like, whether it was like DeepMind, Harvard, or like food banks, there's intelligent people everywhere. Like it's not actually more dense in prestigious places. The privilege is much more dense, but not the genius. So,
That's a nice distinction.
Yeah. And like even when we were doing digital health school, I put an ad on Indeed on who wants to volunteer to help us annotate and have this model trained by real people across the UK, not just big tech. And loads of people volunteered. And then I was like, oh, do you want to meet and sit and chat? And it'd be like 18-year-olds, some who were carers, night school at Birkbeck. Like, I mean, that's a genius. Imagine being able to do both. Like, people who were unemployed, who was like, we have these labels, and it cuts us off from the genius that's all around. So I'm like, there's hope everywhere.
I like that. So one of the final questions that we've got is, so we've talked a lot about the damages that social media is having on society, having been driven by corporate capitalist ideals. So that really underpins how people use it, other than sort of communicating internationally, and the harms it's having on young people, which are sort of multifaceted. So short of banning social media, how do we regulate these platforms so that we as humans can take back agency? Your favorite term, Nigel. And I'm going to start with you, Stephanie. How do we give regulators the ability?
Well, I mean, most regulators don't actually have the jurisdiction to regulate big tech. And so I think we just need to be very honest about what the limitations are and look for solutions that are in the middle. So productizing solutions that are regulatory in spirit, but international by virtue of being a product. And so when we, spent so much time looking at this issue and look at the system challenges and stuff, came up with a product, digital health scores, 1 to 5, green to red score. It shows you the likely psychological impact of what you've seen online. Regulatory in spirit, but really just a product because it has to be able to scale. And, you know, in every other field that has been ambiguous, we have created rating systems. And film, we have rating systems. Food, we have rating systems.
Yeah.
Energy, we have rating systems. Schools, we have rating systems. Let's just make a rating system. That was the idea behind it. Make a rating system, make one consistent process, one consistent methodology, so everybody can use it. And you can give people an ability to gauge for themselves and fend for themselves. But regulation is very slow because there's no jurisdiction. You don't have jurisdiction over the world. Now with America really being quite anti-regulation on this stuff, it's not the first fight we're going to win. The first one we'll win is smartphone-free childhood. That's a great thing to be involved in. We just need to be honest. Big tech has a fiduciary responsibility to make as much money as it can, including from children. That is their fiduciary responsibility in the system that we're in. Let's be honest about that. Regulators have limitations on jurisdiction, and they have to go through bureaucratic red tape because that's what keeps democracy alive. So that there's limits there.
Big organisations that can fight the legal battle. It forces smaller, probably more well-being social media platforms getting involved because they can't. They pay the fees for trade bodies.
And they can have discussions that lead to change that don't have to be like so aggressive in the regulations. So like that's all happening. And, you know, that it all is what it is. But there is this open opportunity of just being in the middle.
Okay.
Like civic tech, really.
Okay. What do you think, Nigel? How do we ensure society is in a position to take like agency?
First of all, we start, it's something Stephanie said numerous times, we start with ourselves. We do have a choice. We can make a choice and we have agency. What I would actually like to see is, and Stephanie mentioned this earlier, I wasn't allowed to go back to it because I don't want to take up too much time. But it's one of the points Stephanie raised was that the regulators, quite often the rules are in place. So platforms say you're not allowed to have access to that platform until you're 13. Platforms say 16, whatever else it may be. We don't enforce it. They kind of just loosely go, oh, well, we can't. We actually need to start turning around and go, do you know what? No. If it says 13, you can't have access. It's like cigarettes or alcohol or driving a car, whatever it must be. You can't do it until that stage. Now, there's going to be as with cigarettes, alcohol and driving a car, you'll get the odd loose cannon who will be underage. 99% of the people will stick to the rule. And what we need, what I'd love to see us do is not just take more personal agency, but also then give our regulators and the standards we set teeth and just say, we enforce it. You don't have a choice. That's the way if you want to operate here, if you want to make a profit here, you have to
follow the laws of the land. And that's one thing that big tech has been so good at doing, which is just helping us forget that we have laws of the land. You know, even if you watch Adolescents and it's about incel culture and young boys, I'm like, it's illegal, actually. It's illegal to have sex under 16. It's not incel, it's not involuntary, it's illegal. But that's gone out the window. You know, even with anti-discrimination law, we have incredible anti-discrimination law in the UK. It's illegal to discriminate for jobs and things like that. So we have the laws already in place to hold big tech accountable. But there's been this big like propaganda wave of algorithmic bias, like this is so new. It's like actually racism, sexism, discrimination, that's not new. Like we have some rules about that, but everything's new. Incel culture, this is really new. It's like actually we have collectively as a society agreed on where the line is, like, but we forget that and we get brought into everything's new and we have to start again from the beginning because it stops us doing anything. But there are laws of the land, and if you want to sell in this land, meet the law.
Frankly, if we can stop people going and buying alcohol or cigarettes or driving a car, we've got all these processes in place. We know how to do it. We just need to, I'd love to see us just enforce it because actually it'd be great for the tech companies. It'd be great for society. Everyone benefits from it. It's not a lose-lose. It's a win-win.
I'd like to see us incentivizing for good behaviour.
Yeah.
So with your traffic light system.
Yeah, we've also created an incentive program on how you keep, how you stay how you build healthy habits.
Yeah, so the same could apply
so that you can have a laugh on social media, you know?
Yeah, so the same.
Sometimes it is funny.
The same could apply with food. So that if you're only eating foods with sort of the green traffic light system on it, then at the end of the month, you get some sort of, I don't know, rebate on your...
Yeah, or balanced, I do appreciate is the ability to sometimes dabble in the red so that you can have healthy habits where you can occasionally, if you see something that's not great, you know how to manage it and you know how to incorporate it so that we're like looking at the holistic patterns and not panicking about the small things. Like you have McDonald's once a year, fine, isn't it? That's totally fine. And so rather than it being like, you go on social media and it's all positive and we incentivize that, but just like, how do you become a healthy person in this diverse, conflicting world? And how do you incentivize that? That's what
that's what I mean. How do you incentivize for it? So let me ask you a question. Might be a bit controversial, and it's just one final one, which I'll I think it answers because I think it answers the question, right? Which is, should insurance companies have access to your sort of daily habits? Should they know if you smoke? Should they know if you eat KFC twice a week? Should insurance companies know your lifestyle?
I think it depends on whether you have a national provision. So if you have an NHS that works, then you could do it, although I don't think it's very good. But the way insurance works, the way that it works for everyone is that you have the healthy with the unhealthy. And that's how people can survive and pay for it. Like, it's the basic economics. So if you split out the healthy, then it becomes unmanageable for the unhealthy to pay, and then they become uninsured, and the healthy didn't need it anyway. So I understand why they want to do it, but it makes the whole system totally collapse. So you can do it if it's not necessary for anybody, because the healthy will just stay in the NHS. But once you have, even just the pressures on the NHS like they are now, that maybe, you need private healthcare to see a GP in less than a month. Like, no, then of course not, because the model of insurance, the economics behind insurance actually working means that you absolutely can't do that.
What's one boundary you believe everyone should set in their digital life?
I think building on what you were saying, like having an internal understanding of how you feel and setting your parameters around that. So, I deleted Instagram because it's like, it just doesn't make me feel good about myself. And that's a good enough answer.
Yeah.
And just anchoring in how you actually feel, because maybe you love it. Maybe it makes you feel great and that's fine. But the goal is that you are happy. So anchoring on that.
I love that. So, Nigel, what's something your algorithm keeps recommending that makes you question who you think you are?
But it's just not quite social media. I mean, they're slightly off. It's going to go to music.
Okay.
Because the home speakers think that I love basically Korean Demon Hunters style pop.
Well, that's clearly your kids, isn't it?
I know, but every time I get them put the headphones on, I go, I'll go for a nice little walk and get some fresh air and go outside. I go, play me some music. And I have to scroll through then and they go, play the next song, play the next song. And it's got this whole story of this, what are the things I actually like as music. And none of it is actually what I like listening to. So that's where it's all gone slightly pear-shaped.
You're a Swiftie.
Yeah, I don't like to miss it. Like, okay, you can be there.
All right, definitely. So if you could have one avatar across all platforms, what would it be?
I wouldn't. I mean, if I had to have, I guess it would just be me. I guess the process of life is just trying to understand who you are and live as authentically to that. Whatever that would be, I'd like it to be consistent. Like, I don't have a work persona, a personal life persona. I don't have that anymore, but I used to.
I have to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if my real persona comes out at work, it'll be game over.
No, that's not true. Stop it.
You're just asking for compliments now.
Yeah.
That's a fishing exercise.
100% true. 100%.
But I'm going to ask you one.
Please.
Yeah. So what boundary would you set in your digital life?
No, I just asked you the question. So I would love to, my partner, when we go out to eat, when we spend time together, her phone does not get open. She does not look at it. Occasionally, if her kids call her, she'll look at her watching it like that. But she is very much off her phone. I am to a degree when we go out, but other times I'm very much sort of locked into it. I would like to have periods where I am completely device free.
The cinema is really good for that.
Oh, that's true. The cinema.
Yeah, I love
often go
the
to
cinema because you know what? I can't look at my phone.
I stream everything online. Netflix, which is terrible because I started a career in film and I will watch it all at home. Anyway, so I'll ask you that question, Nigel.
So I'm going to mirror what Stephanie said, which is, and this is a bit more philosophical, but if there's one boundary, it's about actually establishing what are my values and then trying to live your life based upon the values you have. And then that sets your boundaries around what you're prepared to do, what you're not prepared to do, be it digital, be it real life, whatever it is. But actually, if I can try and know my values and what am I trying to achieve in life and what's that future I want to create, then set everything else around achieving that.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for watching, for listening. Please do subscribe and sign up and follow us. Next episode will be launching in December. and stay tuned for more Behind the Algorithm. Thank you so much. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you. Bye.